Game of Thrones, in the end, cut a lot of characters, and in some cases they merged their roles with others and even created whole new ones. That's why I find the situation with Asha Greyjoy so puzzling, as in principle her show counterpart, Yara, functions in a very similar way, albeit with her name changed. But, like a lot of the characters in the TV show, even when they are based off book characters, it gets to a point where they diverge into something quite different, and that seems to be the case with Yara and Asha, but there is enough difference between them to be worth highlighting in a video like this. In the book, Asha Greyjoy is the only daughter of Lord Balon Greyjoy and his wife, Alanis Harlaw, born around the year 275 AC. As a child, Asha was said to be a skinny girl with a face full of pimples. However, by the start of the book series, she is in her mid-20s, where she is now described as lean and long-legged, with dark eyes and black hair cut short. Her face is thin, with a large and sharp nose, with notably wind-chafed skin. She also has a faded pink scar on her neck. When Theon Greyjoy describes his sister, he thinks of her hawk-like nose, too big and sharp for her small face, but that her wicked smile makes up for it. Asha is a wild and headstrong young woman, raised by her mother to be bold. She also possesses a sharp wit, and has no problem with holding her own against men, both in verbal debate and in terms of a physical fight. Asha enjoys ale and wine, but not to the extent of her uncle Euron once did. She is also appalled early on by the idea of becoming a lord's wife, and after her older two brothers died and her younger brother Theon was taken as a hostage by Eddard Stark, Asha's father Balon begins to see her as his heir, treating her like he would a son rather than a daughter. Asha would quite often wear a brown quilted tunic, breeches of black or green wool, and a studded belt with salt-stained high leather boots. She sometimes would also wear a sleeveless leather jerkin, half unlaced, and she also owns a green leather jerkin covered with overlapping plates of steel. In terms of weaponry, Asha prefers throwing axes, which she has been practicing with since she was just a little girl, but she also keeps a dirk with her. Both weapons are very well suited for the close combat that often results in boarding an enemy ship, with the more traditional longsword too cumbersome in close quarters, and the weight often making it hard to balance in rough seas. Asha, like any proud Ironborn captain, personally leads her men into battle. However, the high position of captain is rare for an Ironborn woman, meaning she must command great respect to get where she is by the start of the books. She is the captain of her own ship, Blackwind, and has the devotion of her crew, who take a perverse pride in the deeds of their female captain, while many others would see it for a cause of mockery. According to Asha herself, half of them love her like a daughter, while the other half would want to sleep with her, or perhaps even both in some cases. Even so, Asha loves her men, and is willing to die for them if needed to, as they all would for her. Asha is also well liked by the servants of Pike and the people of Lordsport. It should also be noted that she is not a follower of the Drowned God like most on the Isle, which also makes her stand out as different. In terms of Asha's personality versus Yara in the TV show, while her counterpart is bisexual, George R. R. Martin has confirmed that Asha is not. Her mother had fostered 5 boys in Pike after the failed Greyjoy rebellion, which cost the lives of her 2 elder brothers. One of the fostered boys, Christopher Botley, was close in age to Asha. In her youth, she experimented with Christopher, though Christopher's feelings for her were much stronger than Asha's were towards him. Christopher was sent away after the two were caught together by Pike's maester. Asha grew into an attractive and bold young woman, and Balon effectively raised her as his heir. However, Asha is said to prefer 10 Towers, the seat of her uncle Roderick Harlaw, to Pike. Around the year 293 AC, Asha sailed Blackwind on a trading voyage which included stops at Fair Isle, Lannisport and the Arbor, where she introduced Peaches to one of her lovers, Carl the Maid. Later, when Asha was away from the Isle, raiding Lycene pirates in the Stepstones, her father exiled her uncle, Euron Crowseye, from the Iron Islands for impregnating her other uncle, Victarion's wife. Upon her brother, Theon Greyjoy's return to the island, Asha is reported to be on Great Wick, taking messages for her father. After sailing back to Pike with Lord Gorrel Goodbrother, Asha passes herself off as Ysgrid, a shipwright's wife in Lordsport, and flirts with Theon to learn his true nature. Theon's naive arrogance amuses her, but he grows angry at Asha's deception and position. At the feast that night at Pike, Asha takes a place of honour beside their father, making Theon feel even more cheated that his rightful place was stolen. During the War of Five Kings, Asha is given the command of 30 longships for her father's invasion of the north. After stopping at 10 Towers to visit her mother, Asha leads the taking of Deepwood Motte. After the unplanned capture of Winterfell by her brother, Theon sends Stag to request reinforcements from Asha, given Theon had been given so few men under his command and a huge castle to try and hold. Asha travels through the Wolfswood to visit Theon at Winterfell, but she refuses to stay and help him defend the castle since it's so far inland. She tells Theon that the Ironborn strength is in their powers at sea, that they can't do battle in open combat, that even a smaller force could realistically hold them back. The 10 men left by Asha eventually abandon Theon prior to the battle at Winterfell. It's around this time that Balon falls to his death on Pike. Asha's uncle, Euron Greyjoy, is outraged at the prospect of a woman ruling the Ironborn, or of his brother, Euron Greyjoy, claiming the throne, so the priest calls for a King's Moot on Old Wick. Upon receiving news of the King's Moot, Asha returns to the Isles to claim the Seastone chair, given that she was raised as her father's heir. She brings with her Lady Sybil Glover and her children as captives. At 10 Towers, Asha informs her uncle, Lord Roderick Harlaw, that she searched for Theon at Winterfell after it was sacked, but was ultimately unable to identify him among the numerous bodies. During the King's Moot, most of her support naturally comes from House Harlaw, the house of her mother, but Asha is also supported by Christopher Botley, whose marriage proposal she had refused, Lord Baelor Blacktide, Lord Meldred Merlin, and Harmon Sharp. Roderick offers to name Asha the heir to 10 Towers, though not to become the head of his house. She refuses, desiring instead the throne of her father. On Old Wick, as the King's Moot draws near, Asha realises that she does not have as much support as she had hoped. She instead offers to share rule with her uncle Victarion, the Lord Captain of the Iron Fleet, if he will make Asha his hand of the king. But Victarion refuses, as no king of the Iron Islands had ever had one, much less a woman, and he disagreed with her plans to end the war in the north. At the King's Moot, Asha challenges the ancient and obese Eric Ironmaker to rise from his chair, his support crumbling when he cannot. When she makes her own claim, her champions are Christopher Botley, Sir Harris Harlaw, and Carl the Maid, with a proposal to make peace and alliance with the North in exchange for Sea Dragon Point and the Stony Shore. Asha achieves a surprising amount of support. The crowd, however, ultimately favours her uncle, Euron, and Asha flees with her crew. While at 10 Towers following the King's Moot, Asha learns her uncle, King Euron, married her to Eric Ironmaker after she fled Old Wick, using a seal to represent her at the wedding. Asha curses this, but admires Euron's cunning, as this prevents Asha from offering marriage to another lord and winning his support. She returns to Deepwood Motte with 4 longships, less than 200 men, and Lady Glover, whose children remain at 10 Towers. After the fall of Moat Cailin to the forces of Roose Bolton, who had been made Warden of the North in the wake of the downfall of House Stark, Ramsay Bolton, his bastard son, sends a strip of Theon Greyjoy's flayed skin from Barrowton to Deepwood Motte, warning Asha to lead the North or share her brother's fate. Asha then sleeps with Carl the Maid and refuses Christopher Botley's recommendation to flee and become a merchant. When Deepwood Motte comes under attack by King Stannis Baratheon's army, Asha kills a Flint scout and then flees with her Iron Men towards the ships on the Bay of Ice, but they are overwhelmed in the Wolfswood and defeated in the fight by Deepwood Motte. Alysanne Mormont then burns and captures Asha's longships. Asha is taken captive and continues with Stannis' host during their march on Winterfell, with Alysanne Mormont as her guard. Sir Justin Massey tries to court Asha, who thinks the knight wants to wed her, thinking to claim the Iron Islands. A snowstorm sets in during the march, and the army slows to a halt at a crofter's village, approximately 3 days' ride from Winterfell, with few provisions left. Queen's men, such as Colton Sung, call for Asha to be sacrificed to R'hllor, the Red God, in an attempt to thwart the snows, and she witnesses the burning of a Peasbury man accused of cannibalism. Asha and Clayton are met Tycho Nestoris, or the Ironmaker Bravos, who has arrived from Deepwood Motte with an escort made of Asha's surviving crew, including Carl and Christopher. Also with them are the supposed Arya Stark, who is really Jane Poole, and Theon Greyjoy, who have escaped from Ramsay at Winterfell, but given the state of Theon, Asha barely recognises her tortured and broken brother. During the Winds of Winter sample chapters, which are subject to change, Asha is horrified when she sees what Ramsay did to Theon during his captivity, with Theon hardly being him anymore. Brought before Stannis and a chained Theon, she offers to ransom her brother, but Stannis refuses as his northern allies would abandon him given the damage Theon did to Robb Stark's cause in the War of Five Kings and the presumed murder of Bran and Rickon Stark. While the Queen's men want Stannis to burn Theon for what he allegedly did to Bran and Rickon after the capture of Winterfell, Asha urges the king to behead Theon personally before a heart tree, as Lord Eddard Stark would have done himself. And that's all we know of Asha and her story until we see the Winds of Winter. Now, something that has always confused me about the show is their choice to change Asha's name to Yara. It seems to me like such a random choice to make, but upon looking further into this, George R. R. Martin has stated in interviews that the writers decided to change the name Asha to Yara to apparently not cause confusion for the audience between Asha and Orsha, the wildling captured by Robb Stark when she was fleeing south, and later travels with Bran and Rickon towards the Wall after the burning of Winterfell. This only really baffled me further, as I personally don't think the names are that similar enough to warrant this change. And I think it says a lot about what the writers thought of their audience if they believed they didn't have the attention span to know the difference. When you look at House of the Dragon, with similar sounding Targaryen names making up most of the cast, people have managed just fine, so I find it quite a poor excuse. In the end, all it's done is cause confusion when talking about the character in terms of the book and show. Yara in the show does share a lot in the base characteristics as Asha. In many ways, she's kind of what I pictured when reading the book to some degree. But the thing with adaptations of books is everyone has their own idea of who the characters are. However, due to the way in which 99% of the Ironborn storyline was cut from the show, she's not given Yara as much time to develop. Her introduction and role in the story are similar early on, but change dramatically once you get to her content after the fall of Winterfell. With the lack of the book storyline after her initial introduction, it means you also lose a lot of the characters connected to her, such as Christopher Botley and Carl the Maid, and the Harlaws in general, which to me is a shame, as I find them very interesting characters, especially the Harlaws. For me, where the story is left at the end of A Dance with Dragons and the Winds of Winter sample chapters indicates her role in future books could be drastically different than it is in the show. The big one is Asha sailing to Meereen to form an alliance with Daenerys. Given her current location and position in the story, I definitely cannot see that happening. I tend to think Asha's story in the book will be very different, and something I look forward to reading one day.